Ditch lights. Do you need them? No, you probably don't. But what overlanding rig is truly complete without them? I found on a recent trip to the Georgia Traverse when I was trying to get in and out of a tight campsite at night that having some extra light on the sides of the vehicle would have been really nice. So aside from providing some extra overlanding cred, they can be useful too. I wanted a set of ditch lights for my 2007 Toyota Sequoia, but I was a little disappointed to find that the brackets, the only ones made by a manufacturer specifically for this vehicle, cost 85 bucks. But I'm pretty sure I can make my own for a lot less money than that. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to tell you how I made my own ditch light brackets and the ditch lights I used for them, and also how I wired up a very factory looking switch for them. This is not a specific how-to video. There are how-to videos that can show you some of the processes a little more specifically. This is really just kind of recap what I did so that maybe it can provide you with some inspiration. But anyway, my ditch light brackets, they mount up under the hood just like any other set for a Toyota, except I ended up using some hardware I found at my local hardware store. This is what I used. This came as a recommendation from an employee at the local hardware store, and I must say, this worked out to be absolutely perfect for the project. This is a small piece of aluminum flat bar, and I chose to buy mine in 1 inch by 36 inches in length. The width of it is 1/8 inch, and I found it to be perfect. It's just rigid enough to provide enough support for mounting lights on, but it's also bendable. It's also very pliable compared to some harder steels. All I ended up doing was taking a clothes hanger, and I kind of molded it around the inside of the hood where the bolts line up with the hinges, and I tried to make a guess as to what kind of shape I would need, and then I cut this down to size. You're going to have to make some measurements, both for the holes for the bolts and also where your bends need to be. This is the shape I came up with originally, and this shape worked really, really well. The only thing I needed to do in addition to this was to add one more 90-degree bend that would go up around the top of the hood, and would provide that final little plate area to mount the actual lights on. Weirdly enough, the best tactic I found for bending this aluminum flat bar was actually to stick it in between the slats in the deck here and just pull on it. Another thing you could do if you have trouble doing this is, of course, you could probably take like a rubber mallet to it, or you could also maybe take a heat gun and apply some heat to it to make the bend a little bit easier. So anyway, it's not the most perfect thing in the world, but it's better than paying 85 bucks if you ask me. After I made some pretty specifically drilled holes for the bolts, I found that it was pretty much a perfect fit. The only clearance issue I ran into was actually on the plastic cowl right underneath the hood. Now, you could probably be a little bit more clean about this than I was. The best thing to do is probably put one more little bend right there where the cowl meets the hood, and you could probably get it to not come into contact. I decided to take a little bit of an easier route, and I actually just took a Dremel tool to the plastic cowl in order to make a little bit of extra clearance, and that seemed to work out really well. The lights do clear the windshield and all of that, the other things you would look for in a good ditch light bracket. I did cover these in a light coat of spray paint, just to round them off with some of the other black pieces of trim on the vehicle. Obviously, it would be a lot better to powder coat them, but then again, if you're spending 10 bucks on ditch light brackets and you want it powder coated, you're just better off buying it from the fabrication company instead. So that pretty much wraps it up. Everything else, that you would do for the install, you would do exactly the same way you would do with any other ditch light brackets, and they worked really well for that. Wiring, I'm not going to talk about wiring the main portion of the lights, except for the button I used. I ended up buying a button on eBay that specifically fits in Toyotas from this time period. It fits in the factory installed blank switches, and it made for a really nice clean appearance. The only thing you really need to know there is which wires connect to what. My wiring harness had a red, a white, and a black wire. I had to cut it to remove the old ugly red button that I would have had to drill a hole in the dash for. The red goes with the green, I found. Black goes with black. Your white goes to the wire closest to the green one. That goes to the relay. And then finally, the last remaining fourth wire, I actually tapped that into the fuse box in order to allow the button light to come on when you put the key in the ignition. I tapped off of the cigarette lighter fuse on the fuse box, and I found that to work really well. I'm not an auto electrician, so don't necessarily take everything I did as truth. I definitely encourage you to look up some other videos related to some of these specific installation topics, because somebody out there has done a better job than I have. So anyway, I'm really pleased with the way that my brackets turned out. I find that they seem very, very sturdy for my use. Once again, I'm not claiming that these are as good as, something that a fabrication company would give you. But for my use, they're plenty good, and hopefully they'll save you some money too. If you're new to the channel, don't forget that I do have a lot of other Sequoia related content, some other budget overlanding, both trips and some product type stuff. So make sure to subscribe and check that out. Also, in the description, I do have some Amazon affiliate links for some of the supplies, materials, and products I use for this build. I'm trying to get this done before the rain really lets down. So feel free to check those out. They really support me. In theory, I'm saving you $75 on this project, so the least you can do is use my links if you're able to. So anyway, that's it for me on my ditch light bracket installation. I hope it helped you out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.